I spent my last 20 on groceries.
You're poor.
Yeah. Since graduation, I'm poor, you're rich. We are no longer equal.
Well, my parents are rich. You know what I wish? I wish we were just going off to war. Or retiring. I wish I was just retiring after a lifetime of hard labor. Get down. Why? Get down.
Noah Baumbach has had an incredibly interesting career, both as a writer and a director. From helping popularize the mumblecore movement, to his Oscar-nominated The Squid and the Whale, to co-writing the Barbie movie with his partner Greta Gerwig, to working alongside Wes Anderson regularly. Noah Baumbach has been all over the place the last few decades. Tonight we are looking at his 1995 debut film, Kicking and Screaming.
Skippy wants a name or what group?
Yeah, what's the name?
I don't know. I was thinking of something like Cougars or Hawks or something.
Oh, I see.
We get matching lobster bibs with our names on.
Or a special brand for cattle?
Forget it. Let's go to the hole.
No way, no hole for me.
That's where we're comfortable. That's where the fun is.
Like other filmmakers who got started in the 90s, Quentin Tarantino, Kevin Smith, Noah Baumbach is one of those writer-director multi-hyphenates who's really interested in filmmaking as a craft and inspired by other filmmakers.
I've been a big diner fan, and I think I thought I wanted to do something like that, something that felt personal and about friendship and about kind of a real time in life. And I wasn't really thinking about, I mean, I was the same age as these characters. Right. I mean, I was a little older when we made it. I was 24, I think, when I made it, and 25 when it came out. I mean, that's ridiculous.
In college, he was lucky enough to have Blumhouse's Jason Blum as a roommate at Vassar. Blum made his debut as a producer alongside his roommate on this movie. Jason Blum got his family friend Steve Martin to read the screenplay and endorse it. They were both 25-year-old film graduates trying to break into an industry flush with indie talent. And it's clear that Baumbach was inspired by a plethora of other slacker films. Baumbach is credited Barry Levinson's Diner and Whit Stillman's Metropolis as two of his inspirations. And it was clear that Baumbach was thinking not just about inspiration, but about format, noting that these are ensemble friend comedies. Kicking and Screaming came directly out of Baumbach's post-college experience, being back in Park Slope after college with his friends. And I don't think you could write a screenplay like this at any other time in your life.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you were at the bar, you were saying diaphragm instead of diploma. Other than that, no. What about me?
No, I had no idea. You seem fine. I mean, when you called Chet daddy, I thought that's, who he was. Your daddy.
The dialogue is incredibly naturalistic, but also pretentious in a way that you can only capture right after college. It's pretty amazing that even this early in his career, Noah Baumbach's writing style had already emerged in a voice that would continue.
Now, dogs. Cantaloupe. We eat cantaloupe.
What are you talking about?
These things that we take for granted. They're all so weird. These words, these names.
His work is replete with literary references, always incredibly naturalistic, but in a way that's smarter and more intelligible than reality. And that makes sense. Noah's father, Jonathan Baumbach, was an author and English professor. He was also the chair of the National Society of Film Critics twice. Baumbach's relationship with his father, who was notoriously cheap, and his parents' divorce makes it into much of his work. And in Kicking and Screaming, the Noah corollary, Grover, has his recently separated father, played by Elliot Gould, come visit him in a rundown rental car that he's living out of.
So I'm moving in with Ellen. She's got this lovely property in Oyster Bay. Beautiful grounds, right on the ocean, grotto pool.
So you're officially divorced?
No, legally separated. Divorce would be a little expensive for us right now. I think the fact that you are still going to school sort of kept us together.
Kicking and Screaming stars Parker Posey, Eric Stoltz, Josh Hamilton, Olivia Diabo, and Chris Eagman. It surrounds a group of friends who have recently graduated from college, but but who decide to stay living near their college.
Let's talk about your friends. Let's talk about how you guys are all in love with each other and how sick you make me with your stupid games, those trivia games. Ding, Max loves Grover. Ding, Skippy does Otis. Ding, they all do each other, and it drives me nuts. Ding that, Skippy. Get a fucking life.
Even as friends, girlfriends, and classmates move on, this group of boys is too terrified to take the next step. So they don't. It also tells a story in flashbacks of Grover's relationship with Jane, who has moved to Prague to pursue her dream of becoming a writer.
You know, despite my efforts, my intense efforts to do nothing, things happen anyway.
Like?
I'm embarrassed to say. I didn't want to have any attachments at school my senior year, graduation and all.
These characters are living in denial of reality, unable to face the real world, pretending to still be college seniors. Throughout this movie, Noah Baumbach also captures the lack of identity or the malleability of identity that exists in your early 20s. You go through life grabbing bits and pieces of other people's identities, likes, dislikes, and trying to mold it into something for yourself. Kicking and Screaming debuted at the New York Film Festival in 1995. The reviews were generally positive, and Newsweek wrote him up as one of the top 10 new faces of 1996, starting a career that would last decades and take Noah Baumbach into the forefront of multiple film movements, and now into mainstream success.
I have homework to do. Just get out. Get out. Get out. 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 Go. Go. Out.
Anyway, before I introduce the panel, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Hit that bell to get notified whenever we're streaming. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live stream, send us a super chat, which helps me keep the show running, and which I am obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. All of our after parties are on there forever. Okay, let me introduce the panel. Conan Neutron, host of Protonic Reversal, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, and frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends, neutronfriends.bandcamp.com. J. Andrew World, illustrator, book cover artist, artist for Give Them an Argument, co-host for Movie Night Extravaganza, and Bad Takes. Kristina Oakes, this Barbie is streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/Cosmopolitics, Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Cosmopolitics. Send her some subs on Twitch. Chris Williams is a guitarist and vocalist who plays in the punk band Maple Stave, which is a new record called Arguments out now, maplestave.bandcamp.com. He's also a cartoonist and posterist, and his art is available online as Plastic Flame. I, of course, am your bartender and 10th year student, Forrest Miller. I swear, I'm working on my dissertation in podcast hosting as we speak.
Well, don't everybody talk at once.
Yeah.
It's the worst dissertation you'll ever
It's
hear.
not usually a problem on this show, but yeah. Welcome, Chris. Good to have you. Long time. I'd say long time no see, but didn't I have you on the show like a week and a half ago?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
This is your suggestion, and a good one it was. So why don't we kick it off by you tell us why you picked this one?
I just think Will Ferrell does a great job in the soccer movie. I remember being in college, I think, or maybe it was just, I don't know. And I told someone that this was possibly my favorite movie, and they responded with like the Will Ferrell soccer movie, and I was like, no. Before that, there was a movie with the same title, and they just weren't interested.
There was another title that they were working on. I think it's called Fifth Year.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Noah Baumbach was saying, like, I wish I had kept that title. And then he was like, because of the Will Ferrell movie.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I mean, it works if you know the subject matter. I think it's sort of a vague enough title that it honestly, I mean this as a compliment. It just sounds like a 90s indie movie title, you know?
Yes.
And I love, as someone who's deeply...
This is a 90s indie movie, so maybe...
Which is what it is.
Maybe nail on the head on that one.
Yeah, I mean, like, as someone who's deeply obsessed... I don't know why I'm speaking the past tense with Parker Posey around this time and Hal Hartley and all that stuff, like, right down the line for, like, you know, ChatGPT, make me a 90s...
What happened to her, you know, when she met Joaquin Phoenix. I wish she had lived a little longer.
She was fantastic in Beau's Afraid, and let's be real, she looked fantastic. Thank you.
Well, that's not as much when the rigor mortis set in, but before that, yeah.
Look, I'm trying to be a gentleman and like walk a line of extreme like thirstiness and you know, professionalism.
I have no problem doing that.
I was gonna say it's Kristina's brand identity. I had only seen Squid and the Whale, and I saw that a long time ago, and I don't know why, but the whole Noah Baumbach thing, like all the rest of his stuff until somewhat recently, was something that just was a blind spot for me.
That's this. I was trying to remember. So we had HBO, and
you mean Max?
No. Before it was called Max, we had HBO, and I remember catching the end of this movie when I was in high school, and I graduated in '98. So I remember catching it and then going through the guide and trying to figure out like what was this movie, when's it going to be on again, I need to see it, and then watching it several more times, and then maybe like 2 years later at the most, I was visiting family down in outside of Atlanta, and I went into like an FYE or one of those type of places, and in the bargain bin they had the VHS of this for like $5, and I was like, oh yeah, I have it taped off TV at home, but I need to have an actual cassette of it. It was one of those really shitty, like just a really cheaply made one.
Terrible transfer.
Yeah. But and then I watched it like a million times through college and after college until I finally got the Criterion put out the DVD. So.
He made this, and then he made Mr. Jealousy, which I haven't seen. Within the same like 2-year period with the same exact cast, pretty much. He was like, I'll make a second movie, which you'd think that like making a first movie already would be like a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
Instead of like deciding that your first thing is going to be a double feature, and then he didn't make anything until 2003. He made a Squid and the Whale. Like there was a gap, like an 8-year gap. Where I mean, he worked with Wes Anderson and he wrote Steve Zissou or whatever, and like he did other things, and he was
Steve Zissou or whatever. Is that
also too in a way,
that's a me level like just dismissive like asshole.
Can you tell I'm not
that's
the
amazing.
Fan of Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
But
no, Steve Zissou or whatever is fantastic. That's actually, in my opinion, I think it's his best film, by the way. But anyway.
But also too, I feel like
I gotta
meeting
rewatch
Greta Gerwig probably helped, inspire him to do more filmmaking, more writing, more directing. In a way, it's almost like he found like a muse.
Well,
Jennifer
who's also creative herself too, right?
He was married to Jennifer Jason Leigh, and they had been co-writing a bunch. They co-wrote,
and they have a kid together.
Mm-hmm. So they were working on co-writing. I think the movie like Greenberg, which he uses the name Greenberg in this movie too.
Yep.
When Elliot Gould's on the phone, he's like I'm staying with the Greenbergs. Yep. So he made that movie with Jennifer Jason Leigh. They co-wrote it together. And then Greta Gerwig was like one of the stars of it. She was like, the indie mumblecore muse at the time that everybody really wanted to work with. So she was in it, and then she ended up doing the script that became Frances Ha, which is a fucking stellar movie. But she had an idea for a script about like her own life or whatever, which is kind of her version of Kicking and Screaming.
Right. Yeah, and that's mumblecore, by the way. Like nothing kept me away faster than that name. Like, that sounds fucking horrible. Like,
well, that name combined with like being like it's an indie movement based out of Brooklyn. I was like, don't need to watch anything.
I was already out of the title. Yeah, stop talking. You've already made me leave the store.
And I was the top person like involved in it or whatever is the guy from the fucking League.
Right.
I mean, personally, I always confuse mumblecore with shoegaze, and
that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
I'm here all night.
Yeah.
Don't we know it?
I feel like people would easily confuse it with mumble rap. Like, why would I want to watch these guys mumble around?
It's just a terrible descriptor. It basically means it's an intelligent movie with a lot of talking, right? Like, but that isn't what gets across at all. And also, I hate to say it, that was, as a huge fan of the genre, that was like every 90s indie movie. So why is that a genre suddenly? Are we going to go back?
I guess they finally found a term to call it.
Yeah.
Or evolved into something.
Mumblecore, because it was, number one, the scripts were usually somewhat improvised or done quickly, on set pretty much, and it was cheap to do. So it was like a
aka every 90s indie movie.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, anything with the Miramax logo on it for a certain period of time.
I would like to thank the Weinstein brothers for this opportunity here.
But seriously, I mean, and again, I know this is the second Hal Hartley mentioned, but this kind of genre did exist. It just was it's just weird that they created a genre for basically these two talented filmmakers, and then oh yeah, that's what this is. What? Yeah. Why did you need that?
They could have called it Duplass Core or whatever, and then which is a way more interesting name for it than
because I would check that out. Kind of there, figure out what that means.
He was their champion, right? He was kind of Baumbach. I mean, he was the champion of that genre for a little bit. He was see, I have bigger success, right? I've made an Oscar-nominated movie. None of these ever will be, being made by the Duplass brothers or whatever. But I'll be the champion of this weird kind of slapped together subgenre of independent movies.
Yeah, that is whatever.
Because also the independent film kind of really grew legs in the 90s. We were seeing more especially Gen X. Type because they were the youngins in the 90s.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, look at a movie speaking of Parker Posey, House of Yes or something, 97, which is fantastic. Her character thinks he's Jackie Onassis. And she flies into a murderous rage when her brother comes. It's insane, and it's just one of the many Parker Posey gems of just she was in all bangers throughout all the 90s, but stuff like that where well, what genre is this exactly? It's darkly funny for sure, but is it a comedy? Really, I don't know.
And there was a lot of actors who kind of did within that genre as well, I've seen this person do another, but again, it seemed in the world where there was a lot of mainstream success with Scorsese, there was this need for this specific genre of film for a lot of those, Gen Xers who are what about us and our struggles? We're coming out of, things like college and high school and,
Party
and
Girl
life is hitting us.
I'm apparently only going to name Parker Posey movies, but Party Girl is another example. It's I mean,
the queen of the pre-mumblecore acting.
Also, Party Girl was the same year this came out, right?
Right, same time, yeah.
Also, Eric
Parker Posey's everywhere.
I was gonna say Eric Stoltz was kind of a
yes, he did a lot of this was when he was starting to direct more films.
But I guess Chet wasn't really in the script originally, right? Is my understanding?
Eric Stoltz was hanging around the set, I guess, and they just gave him a part, right?
Well, I thought that the story was that they wanted the studio wanted Eric Stoltz to be in the movie as a kind of an anchor for it. And so then he was okay. He liked the script. And then because I guess he and Noah Baumbach hit it off, then he ended up writing over a weekend, pretty much all of Chet's character into the script. So,
yeah. I mean, I don't know. This movie would not work as well, I don't think, if there wasn't the cautionary tale of what happens to somebody who stays in which is literally, I mean, literally,
it's not hashtag life goals. Let's be clear.
And I mean, it makes perfect sense why the studio would want him, because if you think about it, he was showing up in all the indie films. I mean, he was in Pulp Fiction.
He was in Pulp Fiction.
He was in my brain's just telling me The Prophecy, and I don't sure if that's right or not, but we'll go with it. But there were a lot of smaller films. Killing Zoe is one of my favorites of that Eric Stoltz period, where Eric Stoltz was just in all this stuff. He really was.
He was
truly
everywhere in the early
Yeah.
'90s, doing a lot of indie films. Wanting to branch out to be like more of a director. Even
He was in
nowadays,
Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I mean, let's go
Yeah,
back even further. Mask was huge. I didn't like
yes.
it, but
I thought it was fine.
yeah.
But like I know Eric Stoltz because it's like, you know, you watch a show like Grey's Anatomy and you'll see like he directed like half of the episodes and like two of the seasons, and then there are times where he will guest star in an episode that he directs.
Oh,
when
I
they
know
need
him.
someone.
I know him because John Travolta yelled at him on the phone. She's dying, Lance. She's dying. I think she's overdosing. I'm coming over.
Oh, but not from Back to the Future.
He directed a lot of Glee
which
episodes
is
too.
hilarious. Singles too. I forgot about Singles.
Yes.
Honestly, Eric Stoltz's tattoo was the best part of the Flash movie.
All right, Andy World. I'm going to charge you 50 cents for that. Thank you.
we need an Andy jar.
Just have like a thermometer, like it's a fundraiser or something. Yeah.
Yes, there you go.
He's like, here you go. Every time I go off topic, I have to put,
50 cents.
50 cents.
Finally, this show's going to make some money.
Yeah, well, maybe if you guys, I'd actually make the graphic.
So where Noah Baumbach went to school, obviously, is Vassar, which is like, Poughkeepsie, where I live, and it's also kind of crazy that the French Connection reference is Billy Friedkin died yesterday, so we have two different Poughkeepsie things to be talking about, both on this episode and then the after party.
Thank God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got to talk about Poughkeepsie, but it's kind of crazy they wouldn't let him shoot this movie here because he hadn't given them enough money yet, and then he finally went back to Vassar for Francis Ha, and he got to shoot it on the Vassar campus and live his dream of filming a movie on his college campus, I guess.
Yeah.
That's a very achievable dream.
Yeah.
Apparently not. They didn't let him do it.
Who would want to film on their college? It's like filming like your high school experience on your high school. Like,
I don't know. Well, you'd actually know the good places to shoot. That for one thing. I mean, there's that.
Well, Greta Gerwig went to Barnard.
For this movie, you have to, right? It has to be at a college campus.
Yeah.
How are we going to do a movie about like people majoring in college, not at a college?
And it's weird if you do it at someone else's college, right? Like,
well, you can go to Casanova now, where I went to college, and that's out of business. So I'm sure you can film.
But
honestly,
Greta Gerwig went to Barnard College, and then they filmed big parts of like the next movie they made, Mistress Americana.
I know you didn't say Barnyard College, but it sounded
Barnard,
like you said Barnyard
Yeah,
College.
it does sound. But no, so they filmed. So the next movie that they filmed together, she was like pretty much, "Hey, can we go to my old college and film it?" And like a bunch of the action take place there.
Right.
Now I'm just imagining her walking around with a cow.
They're on
4-H club, yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Also, like one film that I compare this to, unfortunately, is St. Elmo's Fire, because I feel like Noah Baumbach does a better job at like the experience of like a post-college life for like young adults, because that was the whole point of St. Elmo's Fire, was that all these the Brat Pack graduated from college and they didn't know what they want to do with their lives. And then I'm like, I feel like Kicking and Screaming does a better job at executing the point that St. Elmo's Fire didn't achieve back like in 1985.
Well, because you can't write a movie like this unless I feel like you're right out of college in that situation, right? Like the dialogue and everything in this movie is so like of its moment. Both I think both like in the zeitgeist, I guess, in general, but also for Noah Baumbach in the moment, like he's literally in it, hanging out on the college campus doing the would you rather lose your mom or fuck a cow thing. Like that's literally him.
Which is quite the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's real life kind of dialogue. It seems like taken from his friends and from the people around him, and like the aimless shit that they talk about when they're trying to wait for this moment of coming of age, which keeps getting later and later. I think as the decades go on, right?
Which has kind of like a low, well, for sure. That's an excellent point, because this is very much grounded in its time because of that. But it has that sort of like there's just malaise and dread kind of around of like, well, shoot, what now?
Well, the malaise and dread of that, but also the inability to move forward. Like,
whereas now it's like, don't worry, there's no options.
Yeah. But like the one friend that does get into grad school.
Good night, folks. Anyway,
the one friend Otis or whatever that's supposed to go to grad school and decides just like on a whim, hey, I'm gonna go, defer for a semester and go back to my mom's house and live with my mom. Is gonna catch me fucking downloading porn channels or whatever.
Right.
Like even when there are options to move forward, like these characters are trapped, unable to because of that malaise, right? Like because of the dread surrounding it,
which was very real. I mean, I was not so much of a college guy. Like I took half a semester of JC, dropped out, moved to Oakland, and kind of started doing what I autodidactically do. But there definitely was this time period, and I very much ascribe it to like the Clinton presidency around that time too, where you kind of just had like you knew stuff wasn't right, but you couldn't quite put your finger on it, and they certainly weren't teaching like any of the schools as to why that might be the case. But it seemed like there was this dread at the future, which is adorable compared to what we deal with on a daily basis now. But I think this movie does a really good job of showing that, and not necessarily in an explicitly comedic manner. Like it's funny. There's very funny moments. It's very quippy. It's very smart. It's very snappy. The dialogue works really well, but like it's not explicitly like a comedy. And I feel like most of the movies that address that kind of stuff in the 90s were explicit comedies, like borderlining on slapstick, and honestly usually not that good, in my opinion. But this is a very quotable movie. Like there's a lot of great quotes in this, like, and not to be like the guy, like as someone who pulled the Letterboxd one-liners, I can assure you a lot of other people enjoyed the quotes too, because that's like all what most of the reviews were. And it's again, it's weird that this one kind of escaped my radar because of that, but like it embodies a certain type of film at a certain age where it's like it's kind of poignant too, right? Like it's kind of hit some of that same like Richard Linklater sort of vibes. Certainly that he mastered in Before Sunrise of like, the romance is very real. Like you get to see like the beginning of this relationship, and it's told mostly in flashback. That's like, it's very believable because it's not people saying, Aaron Sorkin style, like the smartest thing possible at the smartest time.
No, in fact, the dialogue is quite pretentious a lot of times, but in a way
self-aware. It's like it's meant to be like, no, this guy's an ass. He's being an ass right now.
and lost, and like it's people discovering for the first time like they're like these intellectual works, right? Like,
it's almost like how I described Linklater's first film. Whenever I watched his second film, where it's like he's like super excited about.
I feel like this is like a Mad Libs, but please go on. Yeah.
Yes. Now,
Jaws, Aliens, no, Slacker and Dazed and Confused. You're talking about?
Slacker and not this, the animated one. I'm sorry, not a second film.
You don't get to correct me when you can't remember the title. FYI, that's the game.
I'm trying to remember the order.
Correction.
Anyways. I always felt like he was very much into like he just read a book and wanted to like tell you about how cool the book was, and this does kind of the same thing except it actually works because like that's not the point of the movie. It's just like it's happening on screen of these people, learning, kind of discovering the world and feeling their oats as intellectuals, as creatives, as whatever, and you can also see like the pretentiousness of that era of creativity and that creative writing class, because you get the tail end of his story, which was really pompous, and then their discussion of it was just like, wow, this sounds like a horrible story. And they're trying not to say anything bad about it because it probably sucked really bad. But like, but like it's all part of a learning process. I mean, we've all been there as artists, writing something just terrible, sharing it with people. And people like realizing it's not, they can see that there's a kernel of something there, but you're not ready to be, Neil Gaiman or whatever.
Yeah, it's like that Ira Glass quote, right? Where he talks about how you have to like just realize that you're going to be pretty bad. You're going to have great taste and making terrible stuff for a while, and that's okay. And like you have to like be able to work through it, and and be okay with it.
Yeah, I don't think Noah Baumbach has fully appreciated that though, because he keeps saying, like, every time he talks about this movie, like, oh, I wish I had started it later, or like I can't really watch it because there's so many other decisions I would have made, or like, I could have only have made this movie now.
Oh, like the artists just can't watch and appreciate their own work. How humble. How embarrassing.
I get the embarrassment sometimes. I look back at my old artwork. It's just like, ooh, that's I can't.
Always improving the craft. But that's what happens when you have vision.
As opposed to the movie The Craft, which cannot be improved. just kidding. It totally could.
I like that you. I like that you say your old artwork. Like I just finished working on something like 2 hours ago, and I can't even look at that. So,
well, it's a good time to feature this comment.
Thank you.
So, disagreement in the comments. There's a lot of shoe rap.
I feel like mumble.
Anaconda. My anaconda don't want none unless it's got Stoltz. Good.
Yes, Anaconda. Great.
There you go.
But I think there's a desire for people to like want to be like to have been perfect right away, like to want to be like the boy child or whatever, like the first possible like their first movie, like right out of the gate was amazing. Like Quentin Tarantino and fucking Reservoir Dogs. They want that. Yeah. Like they want that for themselves, and I feel like I can see why you wouldn't want something that you wished you hadn't put out at that time. Like
look at Greta. Everything she's her last 3 films, Barbie, Little Women, and Lady Bird. Look at those. Like,
yeah, and I mean Frances Ha, which is the first thing she ever wrote, is fucking incredible. Like I watched that movie for this episode. I watched it twice. It's like genuinely
phenomenal,
dazzling. Yeah, like that.
Up until very recently, I thought it was a French film.
Well,
the poster art makes it look. I'm sorry, I need to.
They based it off of Godard's like new wave work. Like
it's meant to evoke that imagery, and the poster certainly makes it look like it. I always look back on my old MS Paint artwork. This is so awful, I could sell it as an NFT. Says Steve.
True. But I mean, you could tell, like, Noah Baumbach in this film is very green. He hasn't. A lot of these younger filmmakers, they feel like that they need to still work on perfecting their craft. And I feel like he's really, especially again mentioning his partnership with Greta Gerwig, I feel like he's really at a point where he's probably at a place where he's probably more satisfied with the work that he's put out now, because I don't feel like his earlier work is as appreciated as it should, especially since he took like that long gap.
White Noise, I quite enjoyed it, and it's a very assured film. It's a very divisive film for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is to find impenetrable material. But it also came out at like a weird time of the year. Like it was always going to be a challenge. But what I'm getting at is that it's very much
like the Haunted Mansion movie coming out in the summertime when they should save it for like October.
Halloween, maybe? I don't know. Wild idea.
I'm sorry, quick tangent off of that. I'm going to Disneyland next week, and the Haunted Mansion's going to be closed. The movie just came out. Yeah, I mean,
why would Disney, man? They're not making they're not doing their best right now.
Well, Bob Iger is so busy, raging out about striking employees and how he's going to try to kill them or whatever. That he's like, slipping on the fucking theme park side.
How do you but seriously, it's like a movie based around one of your theme parks, and it's not gonna be open, huh? All right,
maybe they've taken all the people that are trained to be part of that ride, and they started using them for fucking scabs.
Those weren't actually animatronics in there. Those are actually real people.
So White Noise is deeply impenetrable, I feel like, in a lot of ways, but like all of the stuff that's like cool about Kicking and Screaming and Squid and the Whale, like it's all there. It's just he's a better filmmaker now. Greta Gerwig acts in it as well. She's Adam Driver's character's wife, and she's awesome. And she's a great actress. But it's just it hit at exactly the wrong time, and like all the
we weren't ready.
Well, I don't know. You're ever gonna be ready for that because it's based off of. I forget the book series it's based off of, but it's kind of like known to be like deeply inscrutable and like heady and kind of hard to deal with. And so the idea of like adapting it at all is was it Don DeLillo? I think is the author. Yeah, Don DeLillo. And I mean, it's considered to be like that's like his breakout book, and it's like he's considered one of like the icons of like postmodernistic literature. But also, it's like everyone's like, nope, I'm not going to make a movie of that, and that's what he decided to do, is make a movie of it, and
He likes a challenge.
I do like it, and when I first saw it, I'm like, I'm not sure if I like that at all. I might have hated that, and I'm not positive yet. But that said, I think that it's kind of cool that him and Greta have this like awesome partnership, like with like
they really
writing the Barbara movie and stuff.
Mesh well together.
A pretty controversial partnership at first because of the, I guess people got mad about the age gap.
Oh, okay.
Well, and the fact that he left,
Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Yeah. But people were like,
she still acts.
I think he was like 39 and she was 27 when they made it.
Yeah, Greta's not really that. She's like, how old is Greta? She's like
now
in her 30s.
she's 39. Now she's the age I think that he was when
I think she just turned 40. Like the same time Barbie broke $1 billion. So
Yeah, woohoo!
Big Greta.
Yeah,
so it's like what, a 10-year difference then?
It's not that
crazy. Which people are so freaking out about the 20-year age gap between Florence Pugh and Cillian Murphy and Oppenheimer, and I'm like, people still look a lot younger these days. Just let it go. It's acting.
I just know that like people were scandalized.
It's okay if they're hot.
Like I don't. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, the weird ones are like the woman who's dating the guy's playing Craven. Or
Aaron Taylor. Yeah, that's weird.
And the age gap between President Macron and his teacher wife or whatever. That was his
teacher wife.
I just
school teacher.
Is that what he calls her in the bedroom? Hey, teacher wife.
Mistress.
I just still can't believe that he like
headmistress.
As someone who followed Jennifer Jason Leigh's career.
Christina, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, as someone who followed Jennifer Jason Leigh's career, like, because she was really, like big in the '80s, obviously with like Fast Times at Ridgemont High and all these other like
Oh, I remember.
In the '70s, of course, you would remember the scene. But it completely like went over my head that she was with Noah Baumbach, But then again, I didn't really know who he was when I was literally a child, so like.
Right. Other than those two problems, yeah, it was.
She's in the new season of Fargo.
Yeah, she still acts like a lot of people. Are like, what happened to her? And I'm like, no, she still acts.
Hateful Eight. She was great in Hateful Eight.
She was. Yeah, she was in Hunters.
Yeah, she absolutely killed it in Hateful Eight.
Like how many
she's in.
Yo,
she's in Annihilation, which we're covering in like. Is that next week?
Yeah, I think that's next week.
Yeah.
Well, we're going through all the
great and all of them.
And Possessor, like she was freaking fantastic in Possessor.
Yep.
Skippy Cronenberg. Yep. I like Possessor, by the way, and Infinity Pool. Okay. Anyway, so I don't know the timeline of when him and Jennifer Jason Leigh were like dating or anything, and I'm not really super of interest to me. But I think that this is an interesting film because, like, if this had been like a one-off, like he just had done the one film, I'd be like, oh yeah, I get it. So like this guy said what he needed to say, and then that was it. So it's interesting to go
more.
But it's interesting to go back to it and have that sort of like, it has that sort of like, this is my one chance to get this kind of, they may never let me do this again kind of energy to it to me. Yeah. I don't know if that's just me, but that's how
or like this, or I mean, it has like this very this is what I want my voice to sound like because people are going to be watching this, and I need to have some kind of artistic voice before Steve Martin gives his movie gives my movie to his friends or something because
he was a fan. The Steve Martin TPS report cover letter.
Yeah, that's really funny. It's Jason Blum's first movie that he produced. So it's kind of awesome for that reason too, because he would go on to, do his whole fucking every freaky horror movie ever thing now that he produces.
Yeah. Freaky and whatever. Very mid. Anyway, mid at best. In my humble opinion. Thank you.
With like one or two actually really good ones.
Yeah, one or two really great ones that are the exception, not the rule. Thank you. Coming up next week.
Well, you got to have the one or two really great ones so that you can start your company and set it up, right? Yeah. And then you just keep making mid content for the rest of your.
Everyone has a flop era. But honestly, I don't really think Noah Baumbach has actually really had a flop era.
They've never been flops so much as just niche.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a flop era.
like I realized too when I was going back through his films that there's a number of them that I haven't seen, and I I was rewatching Francis Ha last night, and thought about it. It's like, well, so I was an English major in college, creative writing concentration, so I really related to this movie. I got out of college, I applied for a big thing, didn't get it, and then didn't know what I was going to do, and wasn't living with a Max, so or an Otis, so I just lived on my own, and then got really sad. Then eventually got stuff and still didn't know what I was going to do, so I related to Francis Ha, and then I also got divorced, so I pretty much covered like, all of the
Marriage Story. There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I saw Squid and the Whale years ago, and I couldn't remember why I watched it once and didn't go back to it. And I was like, oh, that's right, because I watched it like right before I got a divorce.
Right.
Like, yeah.
I like that. Squid and the Whale is his parents' divorce story, right? Like he's experiencing it as a kid, and then Marriage Story is him getting divorced from Jennifer Jason Leigh. Like he turned that into his own movie about it. So it's like he's also bookended the divorce movies. Like first I was a child of divorce, and this movie too. He has his dad. Like his dad's in it. His dad's the English teacher.
What is Barbie supposed to be then?
He also has Elliot Gould also playing his dad. Like.
Which is a great get, and it's well acted.
He's been savage to his dad though in every movie. Like the dad character in the Squid and the Whale fucking sucks. Yeah. Like you know what I mean? Like he's just like the whole movie. He realized at the end, like, no, my dad actually kind of sucks. Like my mom's kind of better than my dad is.
Tell us how you really feel, Noah.
Not as bad as Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
But in this movie, the dad's in it, and the dad character is living out of his car, like, being like, I can't.
Being a total DJ too, like, I'm just like,
he's even down to eat the cheese whiz. He's like, oh yeah, cheese whiz. I've lived off this. Which his dad was like a college professor, an English professor, and was like the head of like the New York Film Critics Association. Like his dad was doing pretty well for himself career wise, and I think was just cheap. Like he's always like, oh look, this is the dad character. The dad's cheap as fuck getting this divorce, and it's like, oh no, that like I guess that must have been his dad who's in this movie, which is kind of crazy. Like, he's like, don't worry, the dad's not based on you.
Right. So do you think Noah Baumbach actually did write down things like during life, like Olivia Diabo's character did in the film?
I mean, I don't know if he did it for this film, but he was talking in a clip that I have. Which I can pull up like later about like the characters and listing out traits of his friends. Like he would list out all these traits and then he added those like things together into characters. But like over time, it was like he was making these lists of traits that characters had that he was turning into each character,
like archetypes. And like composite things. By the way, don't you mean
real life archetypes?
Andy, don't you mean your good online friend Olivia Dabo?
Wait, before we get away from the archetypes, though, I wanted to say that in one of the things with the writing of this that I really like is the little ways that he defines the characters. That there's the when Skippy wants to name the group, and
so good.
Skippy's really excited about it. And wait, I wrote it down so I didn't. Yeah. They're walking over to Grover and Skippy are walking over to the table, and Grover says, Skippy wants to name our group, and Max responds with, what group? And Otis goes, yeah, what's the name? And it's like Max is totally dismissive of the whole thing, but Otis is like, oh yeah, we are a group. He's very excited about it, just like Skippy. And I just like that it was a very subtle thing, but
well, you also have like a self-aware notion that Otis would be the Skippy character. Like he's so fucking stupid. He'd be the Skippy's chararater if they didn't have a Skippy, right?
If there wasn't a Skippy, right?
That really awkward interaction that they have, where he's like, I'd fuck that girl, but he doesn't like it's an innuendo. He's like, yeah, I'd like to fuck that girl, and then Otis gets to dunk on him and be like, yeah, like I totally didn't get what you meant there or whatever. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? That's the only time a guy that stupid and that like vulnerable to other people's opinions would be able to dunk on someone is if they have one guy lower down in the totem pole.
Lower in the the echelon, and it's great too because he's clearly like, certainly probably means it, but is just trying to like be like along with the group too, and then like is totally called out, which is so like that is behavior that is indicative of that age group too, right? So like that like absolutely this merciless like okay, I have Sauron's over here now, like mindset, but very clever, but also like is it like that kind of like no, you're also just being an asshole right now. But you are being clever, but you're mostly being an asshole.
Yeah, and kids that age a lot of times can't really tell that, I mean, they can tell that they were trying to be an asshole, but they don't have the social nuances to be like, hey, maybe I shouldn't be an asshole to this person at this moment. It's all about maintaining your position on that like social, I guess, stratification or that social like thing, which this movie does really well. Like there's an intrinsic pecking order. And then at the end of it, like
fueled by insecurity, deep insecurity is with everyone.
But at the end of it, you realize that Jane was the head of that pecking order because she's the one that's sitting there smoking, and then he starts smoking because of her. Which is like one of the first lines you hear.
They all start drinking the same freaking drink because of her.
Yeah. And so when she leaves,
the hangout.
Yeah.
She, as their anchor point, has led to like all of them being even more lost than they are. And none of them want to admit that because, they're guys and like you're not going to admit like, oh, I really, really miss a girl. So he doesn't even bother to fucking call her from Prague.
which is as a viewer,
collect
as a adult viewer with like well-rounded emotions and whatnot is infuriating, but it's also deeply relatable considering the age that the character is, right? Which is like, oh yeah, that's of course that wasn't logical. That was just a crazy thing that like, reason X, Y, and Z or no reason at all. Like that's actually one of the things I liked about it, despite it being like narratively like, oh my God, will you just fucking pick up the goddamn phone and or call her back? Like,
well, and he makes his big gesture, like his big cathartic gesture or whatever, instead of being like, oh, and then he gets on a plane and that's how the story continues. He realizes he just forgot his passport. He didn't go back there the next day.
Which I love that because throughout the movie, he keeps forgetting his wallet. Like he goes to the club,
right,
and he can't get in because he doesn't have his wallet. He's gonna have sex with Giovanni Ribisi's sister, and he doesn't have his wallet, and which he has a condom in. And then at the end of the movie, he makes the decision that he's gonna go to Prague, and he has his wallet, but he doesn't have his passport. And it's like, but then if you flash forward to Frances Ha, she makes an impulsive move, goes to France, doesn't have a great time, and comes home. So
on a fucking credit card. That's the most relatable. She goes and is just miserable in that movie because she goes on a credit card and realizes like she didn't make any plans, she didn't set anything up. It was an impulsive trip. Like it's supposed to be her like mind-blowing 2-day trip to France, and it's just like, oh, I'm just doing the same shit, but just like in France, and now I'm in credit card.
Well, because that doesn't change who you are or what's going on with you. Just to be in a different location.
Well, and it's not like she has money to do anything. Like it's not like she can drop money on stuff when she's there, which is planning a trip. Like you have to save money and everything for that, and she didn't do any of that. So it's just like you're in your hotel room by yourself, dude. Like
that was my sister. She did like a whole thing where she was traveling around the world doing like working with like the worst, most privileged, bratty kids from Beverly Hills who felt like going to Iceland and Rome was just like another day. And she was like, I'm better off just being in my hotel room.
But I think that in the context of Kicking and Screaming, I think Chris brings up an important point that like, it's set up that like the entire movie, he's like, there's something, because of his state of mind, he's forgetting something very important. And then like, what is it he said? Like, it's like, oh, if I hadn't seen it, then like it would have been different. Like literally, like it has to have at that moment in time where he's actually like having some kind of emotional resonance with a different moment. Was when he's like, oh yeah, I should probably, maybe do some kind of grand gesture. Or something.
He forgets his id. He's trying to get into the bar. Right. He forgets his id. That's a line that only that's the line that only a fucking like kid that just graduated from college, I feel like, would write.
To be fair, I totally laughed at it, but yeah, that was deeply like,
you can't drink.
I get it.
Id.
Oh, your id. Oh wow. All right, you're really delving into the mind there, Noah.
But I think, like that scene is it's so well done too, because like it builds and builds and builds, and then it's just like you get that kind of like, oh, like she makes the exception for him and everything, and then it was like, oh yeah, it's not gonna happen, and it's not. He's not coming back the next day.
Yeah.
There's
No, I
fun.
mean, because that's his big. He blew the whole blew his whole big gesture load on that
Yeah.
speech that he gives in
Right.
that moment, and then it's like,
Exactly.
oh, your passport. Oh yeah, I forgot my passport. Like,
Well, and also, isn't that scene the only scene that's not a flashback where there's score?
Oh,
Throughout like all of the like present day scenes, there's like background music playing, like
Yeah.
radio or whatever. But there's always score in the flashback scenes, and then I'm pretty sure that in the airport scene when he's trying to buy the ticket, then the score starts coming in, and then leads into the final flashback.
Oh, look at you.
I've watched the movie a couple times.
Yeah. That's awesome. I did not catch that at all.
That's like how I feel about Barbie when I would watch like Ben Shapiro's review. I'm like, you are purposely forgetting and not adding important context that you seemingly forgot. But then again, he failed as a screenwriter and he needs to be explained.
He failed as a
everything
human
that
being
happens.
too, and I get sick of hearing about him on this show. But yeah, I get it. I think that it's notable too that this film is pretty unabashedly for who it's for.
Gen X.
Yeah, but not even like
a very specific,
a
group
very
of Gen X.
specific.
Yeah,
yeah,
very white, very like children of somewhat successful parents.
Yeah, like that. Like
People
later
who were
on,
able to buy a house for like $6 back in 1962, like that type of situation.
like who later on would be enthralled with, and I like this movie too, Sideways.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, and I say that as someone enthralled with Sideways. And by the way, still love it because guess what? It isn't like a how-to guide. And I feel in the same way. Like, look at the Max character. Like, great quotes, but just like, come on, dude. like most of the cast is like a come on, dude situation most of the time, inclusive of Chet, who just is like, it's the Matt McConaughey character in Dazed and Confused, but writ small.
Yeah.
I'm currently dazed and confused.
I mean, we've all knew
Like in general?
back in the
Yeah.
90s like that. I mean, even going back to my junior high, where there was a 21-year-old who was still in junior high, show up with his mullet and T-bird and mustache. It was the coolest guy in junior high.
Wow. Let that marinate for a second, I guess. I don't know.
For the what you were saying about it, like who the movie was for, like I really like it. I don't know. It spoke to me, and then watching it again this past week, like I remembered that there were so many things about it that I imagined, like because I first saw it when I was in high school. I imagined this is what college is going to be like. These are what the going to be like, and part of that is that like I've typically been around people that were older than me, like for most of my life. When I got to college, it was a lot as opposed to what this film was. There were a lot of people that smoked a lot of pot and played a lot of video games, and then and I wanted it to be much more low key, much more like the setting of this movie, and it's like no one's interested in doing that. No one's interested in like having discussions about anything. We want to be up at 3 a.m. watching Eliminate and doing shots of beer, power hour. Which then I was like, oh, okay, fine. Then this is the college experience. This is what I'm supposed to do. So yeah, I'll do that instead. And,
I mean, I watched PCU and I think I got it right.
Yeah, there you go.
Explains so much. Yes. Reality Bites.
Oh, yeah.
Also, like a similar
PCU and Reality Bites, 2 movies that I forced my friends to go see, and they absolutely hated me for.
Oh,
yeah.
Need better friends, or needed better friends.
I'll go see PCU with you.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
But you're gonna thumb your nose at Reality Bites? Look, I follow your letterbox. I know what you watch.
Hey, you know
How are
what?
you gonna get fancy?
No offense to Reality Bites. I wanted Reality.
I haven't seen it since it came out, man. It may suck.
I wanted to be Singles Part 2, and it wasn't Singles Part 2.
It was not. Yeah, that's That's for sure correct. Wasn't Forrest setting up a clip? Where did he go? Is he still here? Is he on this
I
show
don't know.
still?
Who knows?
I don't know. I think he got executed.
I will say that a scene that I don't think is given enough credit is the Parker Posey revealing that, you know, with the sign, I cheated on you, and then with like the frowny face.
Yeah. Wait, which, no, go on. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, and then the ensuing scene afterwards, which is very funny. Like, but it's like it's crazy.
But it's also like weirdly mature for people that are that age. That like I don't know anybody that was that age that would take that news and just go, oh, okay, well, you know what, we're gonna move past it together. And of course, then he goes back to the group and disbands the Cougars because of, you know, or at least shuts out Max.
Right.
But yeah, presumably still stays with Miami. But
it was great. I mean, you know, I'm obviously a biased source, but yeah, like her character is great. Parker Posey's always great.
Very much like a Love Actually moment.
I did make a note that I did check because there's a conversation where Grover's talking to his dad about Pat Riley and his marriage, and I did check. Pat Riley, as of the time of this recording, is still happily married. So Grover's dad was incorrect.
Okay, well, let the record show. ... Yeah, but like the whole like, first of all, the telling him through the sign thing, I don't think I've ever seen that ever anywhere. Interesting, cool. And then like with the addendum of the frowny face, like hilarious, but also kind of like, whoa, okay. And then like with the going out, like, and then he starts like imitating like what she's saying. Funny, and like something that like honestly, I could see myself in that situation around that time, right? As someone who's, you know, like maybe a little bit too smartass for my own good most of the time.
It's a very lived-in college relationship experience too, right? Like, because you could tell that he like why does she keep this kind of like dog, kind of golden retriever ass guy around anyway? Like that everybody kind of just shits on, and he runs right back to them every time. And it's like, oh well, I guess he's like pretty funny when he's not.
Like he works. His motif is not a large group, like being the alpha.
Yeah,
right?
like you were saying, like the totem pole of it. When he's not the low man on the totem pole, then he's actually just he can be an equal to her. Yeah.
Although she's kind of someone who's a little bit dominating, a lot like I think she sleeps with she sleeps with like the friend because they're kind of very similar. Like they both do the same catty thing where they're people watching, and everybody at the bar, they're like they're like, oh, that guy's gonna get a date rape charge, like this person's like they're doing that classic people watching game.
Which does come from a place of insecurity, so they're like maybe like sort of like insecure in similar-ish ways. And I think that's relatable as well, in the fact that like, and again, that the growth of that organically, and just the general like, wow, that's really terrible.
Well, and the fact that these are all friends that are so insecure with themselves, they end up talking the same, is a pretty like incredible detail.
Which gets remarked on. That was Nando Avila, a friend of the show and former guest of the show, mentioned that like him and his friends in his review, that him and his friends like had a similar thing where I think girls would accuse him of talking the same. But that's a very real thing, where it's like if you're around the same people all the time, you'll adopt certain mannerisms and things like that, especially if you're at a point where you're still sort of generating your identity, right? Like creating, like finding out who you are and like trying different things on. Like, oh, maybe I'm movie quote guy this week.
Well, now people get to do that with online, right? Like your social media presence. You know what I mean? Like I think it used to be way more in real life trying something out. Whereas now it's kind of, I noticed that people formulate their identities around something online. Like they're like, oh, I'm like the meme person. It's like, I've never heard you tell a joke in real life, motherfucker, ever. Like,
yeah, there was that week in college when I thought I was going to be the suit wearing guy, and I remember going to like my pottery class wearing a suit and just like, this isn't going to work.
And everyone's like, who invited this fucking FBI agent to our pottery class? Can I help you?
Hello,
out,
fellow
brother?
kids. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Did you have a clip you want to play for us, or should?
Yeah. So I have a couple of ones where he's talking about writing it.
I'd be interested. This is a very well written movie. And it's well written in the fact that it's purposely overwritten because, again, the point is to, like, there's pseudo pretentious things being said, but then it's remarked upon that they're pretentious. And more often than not, if you have a slight any kind of a self-awareness or acumen, you're going to be like, oh, well, this is just like someone sounding off and being like, oh, did you know that I read this and that? Yeah, we know. Everybody knows.
Which to be fair,
we all know
throughout
it, dude.
throughout Noah Baumbach's career, I think he's gotten less self-aware that he's doing that.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I think his work's gotten more. The classic word is mature, right? It's gotten more mature in that he is not felt the need to point that out.
He still defines his characters by like these obscure references that they put out, or like this, this like a very I don't know. I feel like
which is
working through something, in a
which is hilarious because like adapting that DeLillo book, the White Noise, is like that is the most obscurest, just like intellectuals like Adam Driver's character is like what, like the chief expert of Hitlerology, and like it's sort of like it's so overpronounced, like, and almost cartoonish. It's almost like it's like a meta commentary on his own catalog.
In Frances Ha, right? She's saying that she's gonna read Proust when she's in Prague, and the line is just like, well, because that's just what you do. And she's like, Proust is pretty like he's pretty thick or whatever, and like the girl's like, no, I mean like the book itself, like it's a pretty big, pretty dense book. She's like, it's pretty dense. And
bring on a plane, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, here's War and Peace. Okay.
And were the characters, I mean, I think this is probably a question that gets asked a lot about a lot of your movies, but, was there a kind of direct analog that, the character of Max was based on this person that you knew and the character of Otis was based on this person, or was it more of a kind of amalgam?
In the beginning, more so. It was like Otis is Matt, Max is Bo, right. Grover was kind of me,
right,
and Skippy was our friend Rob, more by default.
And, he's just calling him out on this. Wow.
But that changed pretty quickly. I think they started to become other things and meld, and we would use other, and also the sort of story of Kicking and Screaming, which it was called Fifth Year at that time too. And part of me still, not just because there was a Will Ferrell movie with the same title, but part of me still wishes I kept that name. But it was the story of Kicking and Screaming was so not what we were. I mean, it was kind of like mentally what we were doing, emotionally what we were doing, but we weren't still at college. So it had, the whole milieu was different and we hadn't gone to college together either. So it was fictionalized enough immediately that things started to change pretty quickly.
Well, we'll take a look at a scene. This is from relatively early in the film, but I like it because you sort of get to see the interplay of most of the major characters in the film, and there's such wonderful comic performances, and for people who haven't seen the film, it is a film about people who have graduated from college but are still sort of lingering around, living right near campus and not really sure what they're going to do with their lives. And the two main characters, Max and Grover, in this scene, they've just come back from dropping their other friend Otis off at the airport, who's supposed to be going off to graduate school, but that proves to be short-lived. So we'll take a look at this scene from Kicking and Screaming.
We absolutely will not.
I really like that in that scene that he was going to show. I really like the little touch that they get out of the car. They've gone to the grocery. They get out of the car, and there's a kid standing there with a basketball, and Max just goes, "Hey, Jacob," and I just like that. It's like they just like they don't even need that kid. That kid doesn't have to be there, but he wrote into the script that there's. Like they've clearly lived in this neighborhood long enough that they've developed some sort of thing with the neighbor kid, and yeah.
And I feel like also, I mean, like Otis doesn't live with them; he lives with the mom, and Chet obviously doesn't live there. Like I feel like everybody has that house when they're in college, right? That everybody goes and hangs out at it because that's the house that, like, if you're living with your parents, that's the house that that people can just do whatever because it's just your college friends, or like that's the house everyone's always kind of just hanging out at. And this film does a lot of justice to like that house, so like the vibe of just kind of having people chilling, not really doing anything, not really talking about anything important, not really like just trying to figure out what they're going to do next, whether that's going to like the bar or whatever, like, and just like the inaneness of it, or like the I guess banality and like mundane kind of vibe around that house specifically.
Also, how brown everybody like dressed and interior decorating was at the time.
That was talk about being of the time, man. So many
people like the
tones.
90s is all colorful, and I'm like, nah, it's brown.
It was earth tones, man. It was all earth tones. Yeah, we all wish we looked like it in party.
Had wood-looking walls.
Yeah, fucking McDonald's was like looked like a friggin' beige explosion.
Nowadays, like capitalism breeds innovation. Yet Wendy's, McDonald's, Burger King, everything that's like privately owned, they all look the same now. The buildings on the outside, it's ridiculous. I'm like,
Movie Night Extravaganza brought to you by all of those fast food restaurants that Christina just mentioned.
Movie Night
and Olive Garden
brought to you by the color brown.
There you go.
The color brown. Well, that'd be awesome if we could like get sponsorship for the show, but from Abstract Concepts.
Office Space last week.
Movie Night Extravaganza brought to you by Beach.
Yo, if anyone has a job at Beach,
hit us up.
I'm looking. I need some money, and I love to work at Beach.
Slide into.
Get you do beach hair.
But no, like I like Office Space last week, right? Like was that movie's very gray. So I kind of like the first we're doing like a very gray movie, and now we're doing a very brown, a very kind of.
Well, late 90s was very gray. I mean, let's be honest. There were still like the punctures of browns, which you can see in like the brown shirt that everybody seemed to be wearing.
I saw punctures of brown at Gilman in '97, actually. Thank you.
Sounds like a bad time. No, not that. Was it a band or just the bathroom?
It's a joke, Andy. There's no such band that I'm aware of. Yeah.
I mean, that would be a cool band name.
You could do worse. I've definitely played with bands with worse band names. Chet is such a great character.
And Chet is pretty much everybody because I mean, New Paltz has like Studio New Paltz here.
Yeah, how many Chets do you know, Forrest? You must know a
just
few.
All of them. I know, literally everyone that works at a bar in town. Pretty much everybody that works.
Chet,
at,
you betcha.
Most there's so many people that just came here specifically for school, which I assume in Poughkeepsie too, where he went. Around the Vassar campus, they just end up living here, and they live here forever. Like they're like 40 years old, and they like graduated, in class of like 90 something or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like they
stuck around.
And just stuck around, and then like made a life for themselves in a college town that's like a transient town, and it's like as time goes on, everything about the town, like the people in it change, but like the landmarks don't. And it's the same people that have been there year after year after year. They're like, oh, now I have a family. Now I have like kids, and I'm still in my old college town. And like sometimes they go to the fucking bar and they just like, hey guys, new college kids. These are the,
no matter how old I get, they stay the same age.
All right.
I remember meeting the Chets whenever I was at Kaz, and it just always seemed weird to me. And I had kind of forgotten about them until watching the movie. Like,
a big part of the reason that things are like that here is that the city is like 90 minutes away. New York City,
right.
Obviously, when I say the city,
of course.
Yes, New York City, famous city.
But I mean, no, but like the same thing with Poughkeepsie, where Vassar is. Like people, a lot of times that lived in the city their whole lives will just move up here, like 90 minutes away or 70 minutes away in the case of Poughkeepsie, and like that's their thing. They're like, oh, this is a completely different place. So they're like they've been able to like reinvent themselves upstate or get a second house upstate and live next to their college.
Well, and I think that it's explored too that, like, again, one of Chet's first scenes is when like at the party, right? And there's the woman who's like on staff and is like very excited. Oh, cool! Like someone my own age. And then it was like,
Sorry, Gail, her name.
Gail, yeah. I couldn't agree. Yeah. And just like, oh, this fucking guy. Like, I don't want anything to do with this dude. And then like it just starts opining and monologuing eventually to no one, with the bartender still looking at him while he's doing it, which is deeply great. That's just a wonderful scene. But it tells you everything you need to know about Chet, which as a meta commentary is like, oh, this is how it's gonna go for you guys if you just like stick around. Like this is the path. And like he rationalizes it to himself, seems to be happy about it, but like, you're basically
it's
like
self-acceptance kind of thing, right? Like,
yeah,
I've accepted.
Right.
Like
he's like, I'm gonna audit some classes, and like, hey, okay, dude, sure. I mean, like. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can see him also like prepping Skippy to be him. Like,
100%.
He's like teaching him like and
grooming. Some might say.
Same thing. He does the same thing with Otis. He's giving him all like, oh, don't sit too close to the TV. Like they make the joke at the beginning, like it's like having a parent around, and he acts like a parent. Like, don't sit too close to the TV. But the thing is that the other kid whose name
don't stream for 12 hours. Staring at the computer screen's bad for you.
But like the other kid kind of acts like a parent too. The rich kid. I forget. I don't know why his name's Max. His name's slipped, but Max acts kind of like his parent too, giving him all this advice and stuff, and feels almost threatened when Chet comes around as someone who's basically a parent.
Well, Max's character, but because Max's character he's big on like he has the answer to everyone's problems and just is far too busy to give out said answer.
Yeah.
Like that's his whole like identity proposition, right? And part of it is because he thinks he's the smartest dude in the world. And sometimes he is. And sometimes he isn't. But he doesn't have that self-awareness to realize that. Go ahead, Chris.
So sorry, it was Jocelyn actually. Gail is from the creative writing class. I just want to correct myself. So,
I don't know if do you get the sound effect if you do it to yourself? I don't know.
There you go. We gotta invert it. Dun self-correction.
Yeah, Eric Stoltz is not
more somber sounding.
Elmo's father. So
I do really like the line when he says, "I love that you drink. I love a bartender who drinks because." What fucking bartender doesn't drink, dude? Like, well, I know a couple bartenders that are like
alcoholics for one.
Yeah, but like,
who drinks alcohol?
Sam from Cheers doesn't drink.
It's a very 22-year-old thing to say, right? Like, you've been to this bar, you went to this bar, and you finally
I remember being 22.
You finally know a bartender well enough to be like, oh, this is what this guy does, and you know what I mean? Like, in the moment of giving him this advice or whatever, he's like, I love a bartender that drinks, but it's like. Guy, that's most of them. That's all of them that aren't alcoholics that are like that hate themselves enough to be next to it all the time.
Well, especially if you're at a townie bar too, where it's like
Forrest can relate to that.
Yeah, we got townie bars, and they're the ones that end up with the people that are no, they're the ones that end up with the people that went here for college. And
considering how much time they spend in bars, it's amazing how much trash is talked about Milwaukee, which is 90% bars. Thank you.
Speaking of bars, in the after party, I'll talk about my Barbenheimer trivia experience at this bar that I went to.
Well,
because I did not get carded. Shh.
Why would? All right. I don't think I've gotten carded anywhere. Like I think of that as an insult, not getting carded. I'm like, yo, do I look 40 to you? Like, do I look?
Yeah.
The thing he's talking shit about with Milwaukee is that the school that he's supposed to be going to.
I know,
I know, but like,
it's a goddamn joke, dude.
I know, but it's funny that they do talk that shit about Milwaukee because it's clearly something he's afraid of. That he's like, oh, like they're not going to be like that in Milwaukee. It's like a totally different place. And as someone who like. Just went from New York to Milwaukee for the first time. It really isn't like there's no.
But again, you got to remember at the time too. This is also like it's just like that's just a name that I know that is in the Midwest where there's like people that work at auto plants and things because that was still a thing. Let's remember that was like NAFTA had not gutted this country yet.
And apparently they don't know about his like mechanical engineering interest or whatever.
Which I one of the things that I like about this movie, I like a lot of things about this movie, is the depiction of the friends that instead of like so many movies like like a St. Elmo's Fire or something, where it would the friends know all about each other, and we're gonna be friends forever, like sort of deal that like we're all up in each other's business, and they like Max can't even remember like he's at that scene where he's like Otis with his mechanical engineering and Grover with his 2T and that like they're
well, the Grover one's a little weird. I mean,
but those details aren't even important to him to like enough to retain.
Yeah. But it's like we're friends, but we don't have to like know everything about each other. We can live independently of one another, and
The less I know of you guys, the better. But just don't let that happen.
How dare you? First,
no, like there's
not me. I can't believe you're talking about Andy and Forrest that way.
I know.
Well, there's not much to know about me right now. I mean, I'm not...
we just vibing.
No, but I like the things that they do know about each other that does stick in his mind, right? Like, or the things that he's capable of having stick in his mind, like this fucking kind of pretentious rich kid that thinks he's the smartest kid in the world, are like these inane details that like annoy him about his friends, but he's not able to remember like
that he can retain.
Yeah,
but like
it's
massive.
It's like you're in a friend group, right? And then when you hear them talk about things that they're deeply into, and you start to realize, why am I friends with these people? They just seem so foreign to me, and I don't understand what. Like, I was friends with the kids who were deep into anime. I was not into anime at all, but somehow
I think it's also threatening to this kid, right? Because he has no idea what he wants to do. Like, you don't see him ever say.
I'm trying to decide if I need 50 cents from Kristina for that story or not, but
you never see him say anything he's interested in personally. He maintains like this ironic distance from all of it. And every time his friends are
which
like,
somehow he considers laudable. Yeah. That's a laudable goal. That's smart to him. Where it's like, no, that's just disconnection. That's not intelligence.
Also, dude, this was at a time where people assume that because you're rich, you're smart.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot of rich people still feel that way.
Yeah.
but it is notable. Yeah, like what is and isn't retained, right? And but also remember that this is from a different era, like the pre-social media era, where like you didn't just like
the good old
have
days.
People telling you everything about their life all the time, always.
And that was it occurred to me too in one of the recent rewatchings is that this movie could be made in some form today, but a lot of it doesn't translate. Like that, they don't have access to social media. There's one computer in their house, presumably, and it's in Grover's room, and he uses it to write stories, and that's it.
Yep.
1995.
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say the family computer, even if the family is a bunch of dudes living cheaply.
Yeah, they have a landline, and they have a really old answering machine, and that's it. And
hard relatable.
It's so.
I mean, I lived that exact life at that exact time. Although it wasn't in college, it was just
Yeah, like I went to a technical college, so like I was more focused on like my education. And it's weird because like it's different from when you're going to like a community college or a trade school, technical college. There's not like that college scene really, unless they have like activities on campus. But like everyone's like, did you have like the college experience? I'm like, no, I went to technical college. I'm like, we don't. People get embarrassed when you say you go to a technical college, which I just never understood. I'm like, college is a college to me.
Well, this movie was
you could be embarrassed if you mishear it like I just did, because I thought you said tentacle college at first. I'm like,
whoa! I went to tentacle college. I matriculated there.
With university. No, but like I think this movie kind of does a good job at like exposing like the superficiality though of that college experience, where it's like, oh, like what do people do in college? Well, they hook up for the first time and like cheat on their boyfriend. Like, what do people do in college? Well, they sit around and drink at like the local hot bar that everybody wants to meet girls at, the Hole, which is not the place I would. Like if they're like,
sounds boring.
I'd be like, no, I don't.
Too much. I don't want to do that.
I made zines and started playing guitar, but I also had attics for parents, so I didn't really fuck with a lot of that stuff. So maybe a little bit different, but yeah, the idea of there being like, again, not just a computer, but the one computer that everyone shares in the house. Oh yeah, that was
No, I remember borrowing my roommate's word processor.
Screaming 56K modem. Sorry, go ahead.
I also like that. I also like when he goes to the party at the dorms, and it's just a bunch of kids dancing to oi 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 oi. Oh yeah, and like
I've both been to parties like that, and also situations like the sex scene with like the other couple in the same room. Yep.
Well, yeah,
it's like your roommate's like, "Hey, I'm gonna bring my boyfriend or whatever," and I'm like, "Oh God,
or your
no!"
roommate leaves the door open while you're having sex.
Well, I like how intrinsically awkward everything in that situation goes. He trips over the bong. He doesn't have a condom.
Tripping over the bong and the bong water goes everywhere is classic. Yeah.
And I do like that he wasn't afraid to have the guy be like, "Bro, my bong, bro." Like.
But why'd you leave in the middle of the floor? Well,
but it's this thing where you
messy college kids.
You no longer fit into like this hookup culture at schools because it's weird that you're not in that school anymore and you're hanging out around the campus is fucking creeping anyway. But like he's out of that stage, but like is absolutely terrified and empty and only has like a superficial knowledge of like some things and like can't really like do it. Like nobody in this movie could function without like their group of friends who are also equally dysfunctional because they're all lost. And it's a very trying to fit like a round peg in a square hole every time they interact with like anybody really in this movie.
Well, and that also kind of brings up the whole thing. What's the Cara Buono? How you say her name? Her character's name? Like
Kate.
Who is not of age.
Yeah,
right.
That was a little.
Yeah. Which I double checked, and so. At the time this movie was released, she would have been around 24. So I like there's no way that she was actually 17.
Right. It was served the script for that to be the case.
Of course, Chris Eichmann was around 30. So,
right. Which is some real like first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, high school. Level of
which by the way I saw that was like the first movie I saw in theaters and a lot of people were like, can you take your kids to see PG-13 movies? And I'm like, what does the PG stand for?
Pretty good.
Exactly.
but the one thing, coming back to that character, the one thing that actually kind of took me out of that movie was there was a division line in like
penis girth 13.
It's very well endowed.
There is a dividing line in like 1992, 93, where you can have people with that hairstyle that she had, and then girls with like long straight hair.
And that was like something happened in once 93 hit something completely.
I was working on a project that never saw the
fluffy
light
brows, thin
and I was
brows.
like looking through old yearbooks, and you can see this line of like senior, junior, they all have the big hair like that. Freshman, sophomore, they look like they're grunge queens. And,
I believe maybe Cindy Crawford probably started that. Or the heroin chic. Was of like the fashion industry was kind
that
of
was Kate Moss. That was all.
Yeah, Kate Moss too. Like like that. That.
Not that I would know from personal experience, of course. But
obviously, when I think of heroin chic, I think of Kate Moss.
Her character, the Kate character, kind of reminds me of like Brittany Murphy as Ty in Clueless. When she comes to school and like it's like kind of
a virgin who can't drive.
Yeah, so like that. I don't know. For some reason, like that character reminded me of like the slightly rough fucking Brooklyn accent girl that's like. Trying to fit in with them. I love that she's the one that's like, you guys all talk the same.
Yeah, her character's actually great, and like when she gets out and threatens the dude who's like wants the parking spot.
He'd already rather be bow hunting.
Yeah,
so good. That's such a good line.
Well, every time something happens when that kid's like ironic coolness, I guess, has to like leave him, you know what I mean? And he has to like actually face up to everything. He's like such a pussy.
He's lost.
Like,
he's totally lost. Yeah.
The first line is like, "Oh, I don't drive," but he says it with such like condescension.
Yeah, it's the "I don't own a TV" is what they used to be. That sentence had that same inflection. I'm like, all right, what do you want? A fucking medal?
Well, when he's explaining like what everything that he has to do to get through the crossword puzzle as opposed to Otis watching TV, and I have to figure out contractions and it's like you're doing
literally nobody cares.
Yeah. I'm figuring out words. I'm basically like taking another college class. It's basically my 5th year of college classes, which
it's only words
we haven't brought up. is the fucking line when Chet brings them a dictionary and he's like, I'm gonna look up blowjob. And then later on you see fucking Chet look in the book and he's laughing at something like
I like that they just leave him at the house while he's reading the dictionary. They're like, tell Grover that we're going to the bar, and he's like, okay. And just
keep busy.
Now, who here has read the dictionary because you were bored? Hanging out with friends.
Yeah, well, no, not hanging out with friends, but I definitely read the dictionary for fun as a kid, and that probably says a lot about my loquacious aesthetic. Ooh.
I found that to be boring. I was more into like learning about Titanic than like reading the dictionary. So
there's two kinds of kids. One of those kids, they spend their time reading the dictionary. The other one of those kids, they learn about Titanic. You could rather be one or the other.
Exactly.
Inside you are two wolves.
I was going for it.
And one will sink.
But I love, like the whole Max thing with about nostalgia, right? Like he was nostalgic for conversations he had yesterday and stuff like that. It's so like low grade poignant, but like attempting to be poignant at the same time. And that's like what makes it such a like great and sharp line, because it's like, he's like, I'm reminiscing this right now. And I can't go. I can't go to the bar. Why can't he go to the bar? He's like, I can't go to the bar because
he
didn't have a good time in the future when he looked back on it.
Yeah,
like
which is great because, to your point about like him, like kind of being like ill prepared for the world and feeling weak and useless, that he's or being scared of being useless, is that he talks about how he wishes that he was. Like he had gone to war and now he's lived a life and now he can just relax and he's done all this stuff already. But then when he's alone, he's looking in the mirror saying, what do you do? Oh, I do nothing. And he's just giving himself shit about how he does nothing, but he wants to have already done everything. And it's like, no, it's because you're just so scared of doing it.
He doesn't want to do things, but he wants to have done stuff and be known and respected for the guy that has been done stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so he's a rich kid.
You're a rich kid.
No, but like I feel like that is kind of like a cool, like when he's like sometimes I wish we had just gone to war or whatever. Like that is what kids used to do instead of college, right? Like once you're like a man, like that's where you become a man. In college, you don't really learn like how to become, like they don't give you the same kinds of step-by-step instructions you get when someone starts shooting at you. And I think that like that
now
line,
they do.
But they do have books on how to be a man, and one of them is about horses.
But no, but what I'm saying is like those kinds of experiences, like he's lost without that kind of experience, like somebody teaching him how to be an adult, how to be a man, and he's like, I wish we had that, because he's stuck in this perpetual adolescent thing because nobody has any idea what they want to do. Forget nobody wants to work anymore. Nobody wants to figure out what they want to do.
It takes us back to like, the lie that we were being fed that, you got to go to college. You got to go to college, get a degree, you get a good job. You can buy that house, buy that car, get married, have family. That was the beginning of all that, to be honest.
Well, for sure. And kind of harkening back to your earlier point, I mean, Max and Kate's whole interaction is also, that's perfect for him because like he gets to have his like air of achievement about him with someone who's just genuinely like even less experienced in the world than she is. Yeah. And by the way, I love that I'm going to be 17 tomorrow, and it's like, oh yeah, you can read 17 magazine and get all the references now. Great. Hilarious. That's that's objectively great line. That's honestly a creepy situation, but like funny line. I'm not gonna lie. I laughed my ass off. I was like, that's amazing.
Well, they only kissed.
Yeah,
she's only going to first base with him.
Like a lot of people. Let me tell you about these letterbox one-liners. At least a quarter of them are like referencing that relationship. I'm like, oh my god, like fine, I get it. Another quarter of them are just quotes. Speaking of which, are we? Yeah. Are we? Okay, cool. So, so Letterboxd, of course, is a social media site for film lovers to talk at, with, and to each other about the movies that they love, the movies that they maybe didn't love, the movies that they seriously want to endlessly quote over and over again as a review. That's a review, just a quote of the movie. That's it. And of course, all this is Best expressed succinctly, it's a bottom-up democracy. Not just the Siskel's and Eberts of the world get to have their say. By the way, Siskel and Ebert both like this movie. Shouted out on their show even. Best
They
expressed
also
succinctly.
shouted out Ebert at the beginning of it. He's like, "Oh, do you like this person or this person? Would you be stuck on an island with them?" And he's like, "Whoa, with Ebert."
Maybe that's why he's got to like reference those dudes. If those dudes got mentioned, they'd be like, "It's a great movie. We love it. 3 thumbs up."
Well, as long as you don't disparage them in the reference.
Anyway, all this is best expressed succinctly for the purposes of this bit. These are the Letterboxd one-liners for Kicking and Screaming. Let's go. Who wants to be an old couple with me? Great line. Really cool scene, actually.
Yeah, that whole scene is just like one of the best written romance scenes I've seen like in a long time.
That might be my favorite end for a movie. I absolutely love that last scene.
And that's when I referenced Linkletter earlier. I was thinking about just like the naturalism of something like Before Sunrise in that same way, because it's like I think all of that stuff, the flashback stuff with Olivia Dabo's character, is just gold, 100% gold.
Yeah.
I love Insufferable Men.
Well, do I have a movie for you?
Yeah, nothing more to say there. I like a bartender that drinks.
Hey,
that's a
bartender.
22-year-old line though. Like it really like what like what you like is that a bartender will drink with you, right? Like
Right. Well, of course, yeah, that's the tacit. Yeah.
That's always the best part is when the bartender drinks with you. Like
Or maybe be like, whoa, you guys did a live podcast? Oh, whoa.
Yes.
Crazy. I totally thought we were going to get free drinks when he said that. We didn't. But anyway.
Jeez, and I ducked out like right after that drink. Like you guys are shoving it in my hand.
Thank you.
we should have said we'll pass this thing along to Ben Burgess, the famous podcaster. If
yeah, exactly. He'll handle the bill.
Oh, sorry. While we're talking about drinks, real quick, I had noted that when Otis is talking about blacking out at the beginning of the movie, and Max is telling him that he has a problem, Otis at the time has 3 different drinks sitting in front of him. So Otis might really have a problem.
He might actually have a problem. Yeah, absolutely.
Or be so antsy and indecisive that he can't figure out which of those drinks that he should be drinking, and
just go with the one with the food in it. That's the one you want to drink.
6 of one, half dozen the other, I say. I'm talking about the drinks. White people let's hang out with my friends Grover and Skippy.
Ding that, Skippy.
But that is real though. Like
these are like the whitest. Just never mind.
It is definitely peace and love stuff white people like, for sure. Another iconic '90s hot girl role for Parker Posey. Testify. Yes, I have no notes.
And she didn't even have to have Joaquin Phoenix Venom shot inside of her.
Exactly. Call it a win, walk away. Cookie Man, pro-life?
Nah, Cookie Man, pro-choice.
That is such a bizarre, is that even a non sequitur? It's written. I don't know.
I thought they were trying to smear the Cookie Man, like he's running for something or like student government or something, and they're like, is Cookie Man pro-life?
Yeah, I did not get Cookie Man. Like I feel like I'm missing something.
I feel like there's a whole
it's just
cut
an inside
15
joke.
minutes of this movie that maybe
it's just the whole Cookie Man origin story.
Well, no,
how he fell into a batter.
I think of it as the Cookie Man expanded universe.
It's a lived-in inside joke. Like it's the kind of inside joke that we're not privy to, but we kind of get because they kind of explain it to Grover because he's the Noah Baumbach corollary, despite the fact that Noah Baumbach is in this movie. Whoa!
Meta moment.
Anyway, Cookie Man pro-life. There you go. What I wouldn't give to be a pretentious bum in the 90s.
Well, you can only really do it right after college, though, right? Like that's the time to be a hipster, like a pretentious bum, which is what they are. They're like they're proto hipsters, right? Like they're those kids. That are
the older hipsters.
There's definitely like a countdown clock, for sure, of when it's just like, all right, now you're just an asshole.
Well, and fucking Noah Baumbach, I feel like his movies are like he and Wes Anderson are like the kings of that kind of like the kind of person that likes to throw around those kinds of references, because they're also those same kinds of people.
What the fuck kind of name is Grover?
No.
How's your love life, Grover?
Grover. Also, Bechdel fail as a tag on here, so that's a bold statement. Okay. Is it? I guess there's only like 3 women in this anyway.
Yeah.
There's more than that. What would you rather do? Fuck a cow or a turkey? Wild or farm raised?
I have no idea. Just answer the question.
Well, I mean, I guess they've broken the farm raised turkeys down enough that maybe it's easier to catch them than the wild turkey.
They don't run as fast because of how big their breasts have gotten.
Oof, that's dark.
Yeah.
Okay. Youth is wasted on the young.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's a sentiment though that like Noah Baumbach shares, and that's why he's gone back and like made movies about this time period. Because, you know, as a person that was making movies at like 25, he felt like he didn't do it well enough this time. So then Francis Haas, his movie, like, you know, his bookended period of that, I guess, his extended time in the 20s.
There you go. These dudes totally peaked in college.
Yeah. If you call that peaking.
Yeah, well, you know.
Although I like it, Josh Hamilton shows up in Francis Ha, and he's a lawyer. And even though he has a different name, I'd like to believe that maybe he went back to school, became a lawyer. Now he uses maybe not his nickname. He uses his actual name. It's like Alan or something like that.
Yo, but imagine if your name was Alan though, and you decide to go by Grover.
Yeah.
Yo, call me Grover.
There are no multiples of Alan. He's just Alan.
There you go. Those are the Letterboxd one-liners for Kicking and Screaming. Of course, please follow the show, which is all the Cookie Man, who is pro-choice over here at the Vassar adjacent Townie Bar, logging all the stuff from that we cover on this show and lots more. I am Conan Neutron, the Bad Story Finder. I will find you for bad stories. You can also follow along with me for the Criterion Challenge if you seem to be so inclined, watching the highbrow stuff, the midbrow stuff, Populous Fair, everything in between. J. Andrew, Passport to Sea World, has never been to Prague, but he has been in all the streamers watching all the weirdest stuff, so you don't have to, or maybe so you do. It is not for me to say; it's for you to judge. It is your ability to
Only
pick
God
that curriculum.
can judge.
I welcome your judgment.
You can audit his classes, and his classes are strange. Kristina is slapping and yawning. Slapping and yawning on Letterboxd now and again. I see her. She logged a couple of films that you would probably be able to guess what they are lately. So try to cajole her into doing more. Chris. This is not a peer pressure situation. I don't think you have a Letterboxd account though, do you?
No.
Okay, good. I'm not going to promote it. So there you go.
All right.
Yeah, Passport. Let's see the world and the plugs at the same time.
All right, right now you're watching us on YouTube, so please do those YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss a video. And of course, the big ask is to watch the video to the end. That helps other film fans find our content, and you get to hear that great Conan Neutron song at the end there. So, do that. If you're watching us over on Twitch, do the Twitch things. Throw us a sub. If you happen to have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe for free. Doesn't cost you a penny, but that actually helps us out. So we would thank you for considering doing that and all that stuff. We're on various social medias.
You were doing so great on that.
Wasn't I?
I don't know what happened.
I kind of lost my steam right there.
He thanks people.
Were you just expecting to be interrupted, and then you weren't, and you're like, I don't know what to do now.
Also, he thanks people for thinking about doing it. Like, thank you for considering maybe some
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Well, anyways, we're also on social media, so please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. So find us there. Yes. Follow us. You can follow us individually or as a collective.
Tweeting and skeeting.
Yeah. Keep.
I refuse to say that. I refuse. I will never type that.
Skating for me threading.
Yeah. So
the first thing that I wrote on Blue Sky was to the window, to the wall.
Oh yeah, ski. That's the first thing everyone started doing. They did the meme. It was a whole thing. It was great.
Yeah, well, I got there late, so I didn't see when everyone was doing that.
Not as late as me, strangely, which nobody had in their bingo card. But
yeah,
whatever.
But what you should have on your bingo card is going to Patreon and supporting us over there.
Masterful. Well done.
I thought I'd make up for my earlier.
That's good. Yeah.
But one of the nice things about the Patreon is that you'll always have access to our after parties. So which is exciting. You can have access to them forever.
Yes.
And tonight we're doing one, right?
Yeah,
tonight we are doing one. It would appear so. Yes.
So stick around for that after we're done with this.
Exactly. We're gonna make Chris rue the day that he decided to come on this show. It's gonna be great.
Get ready to rue.
So Conan, Protonic Reversal, you had Chris on recently, right?
I had Chris on 2 weeks ago, and that was wonderful. And we'll talk more about that when we get to his plugs, but that's great. Of course, last episode was not Chris. That was Randy Randall of No Age, who was also in this show. So you think you'd remember that, but maybe not. But he has, that show Hyphenate, which launched
it's all the crossing
on
of the
Thursday.
streams.
Got it. Understood. And that's out now. So if people caught our Office Space episode and were like, "Oh, that sounds interesting," you can check out the first episode on that. There, no Protonic this week on its normal slot because we have a band announcement that day, and that's what's going to be happening that week. But we have the guys from Mr. Flies are on next week, and Mike Hard of God Bullies and Thrall. It's coming back. I think that's it. Sleepytime Gorilla Museum later this month, which is a big deal for a certain type of nerd, but I don't remember what date that is off the top of my head. So there you go.
That's fine. But what else you have is Bandcamp. Wait, sorry, I screwed that up. NeutronFriends.bandcamp.com.
Yes.
And you can get all your Conan Neutron music there.
The name of the band is Conan Neutron, the Secret Friends, of course, as we all know. And
do we though?
Yeah, well, apparently we do because Andy just feels it needs to shorthand it. We have a new LP that opens up for pre-orders on Thursday, which is a split LP with the band Lung. It's called Adult Prom, and it looks like this. There is their van is on one side and our van is on the other, and we're very happy with it. It's very cool. They cover one of our songs. We cover one of their songs. Kate and I do a duet. You're going to be hearing a lot more about that, and I'm glad to see it be in the world. So
and it's great art, too.
Yes, and in addition to that, we have tour dates coming up, which technically speaking, I'm not supposed to announce till Thursday, but don't narc on me. And then this is a great, I can't read any part of the actual tour information on this, but this is the poster that Andy put together for us. So this is the...
Hey, Andy, why is a samurai on it?
I really want to draw samurai. I was looking for an excuse to draw samurai.
And lo, he found it. Phoenix, Arizona, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Sacramento, Reno, Eugene, Portland, Bellingham, and Seattle. And in Seattle for Rat City Recon, which is a fantastic time. So all those dates will be with Lung. Really looking forward to that. It's going to be a great... It'll be a great time. We're also playing Louisville for the Monic Schnitzel. Is it Schnitzel Walk? I don't know the name. Everybody is so excited about this. I'm like, sure. That's notable too because Maple Stave's playing. Also, so we played with Maple Stave.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah. I think that's it for now. But Thursday, not even a big thing's coming. It's pretty much pre-orders gonna be available then. Maybe we should have done that during Bandcamp Friday. Yeah, it might have been a good idea, huh? But we're not, so.
Someone seems ecstatic about going on tour.
Yeah. I'm just glad to be able to announce these damn dates, man. It's going to be the week before when you get to announce them. So.
I'm glad to announce these damn dates.
Exactly.
You gotta do the Bernie.
The American people are sick and tired of not knowing when Conan Neutron, their Secret Friends, are touring.
The American people have been hearing about tour dates for a long time. You're talking about tour dates. Do you have any tour dates to announce, or are you just gonna keep pulling our dick?
Wow. Criterion Bernie's getting salty. All right.
Not safe for work.
So, Kristina, you got your Twitch channel happening.
Mm-hmm.
And your Patreon.
You got your
going.
Twitch channel happening. That's
Yes.
the plug, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Anything special coming up?
Not that. Well, I'm gonna be dog sitting, but I'm gonna try to stream while I'm dog sitting at another. They're gonna be they're literally next door neighbors, so I can go to the one house where the dog doesn't shut up, and then I could go to the house where the dogs are quiet and stream and stuff. But also,
you should get all the dogs into one house.
I know, I really should.
So there's going to be a dog stream coming up. So people who enjoy seeing animals, so check out Cosmopolitics.
The Mojo Doggo Casa House.
Yeah. Also, I'm probably hanging out with Allie, friend of the show.
Yeah.
My little sis. She's turning 21.
Jesus.
She's growing up. I know.
I mean, great.
And so we're going to be hanging out sometime next week and on stream together and talk about Barbie and drink wine and stuff like that. So it's going to be fun.
She should come back on sometime. She's a good time.
That sounds like great.
She's
And
a
of
good
course,
time. What is she? A fucking the lady of the night? Yeah, it was a good guess.
21 also means he's finally gonna get id.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
but also check out Kristina's Patreon. Go support her over there, and so you may see dogs,
and you may see what's happening.
Yes. And of course, Chris, you got apparently you have tour dates and a new album.
Yeah. Oh wait, can I? Oh. I have 2 notes that I didn't get to on my.
No. There's final thoughts after this.
Oh, there are. Okay. Good.
You can as soon as you do the first do the plugs, and then you have your time. You can do the second thing.
so there's Maple Stave Arguments there.
Yeah. We just at the beginning of the month we put out our new album Arguments. We're gonna play a release show here in Durham on the 26th at the Pinhook, and then and our bassist Chris Rasmussen is gonna fly out from Seattle to play that, and then later in September we're going on a week-long tour, and we haven't released any of that information yet, but we're gonna play.
Sorry, I just released some of it.
Oh no! We're gonna play with Conan in Louisville, and then we're also gonna play Milwaukee, Manitowoc, Chicago, Detroit, Boone, North Carolina, my college town. So yeah.
So you're gonna spend a kicking and screaming couple days. You know what I mean? Just hanging out at the college town as
exactly. Yeah.
And if folks are interested in the record, not only can they find them on Bandcamp, right? There's a Protonic Reversal episode, as mentioned, that we go in depth into every song of the record. It's very interesting, I think. Of course, I say that, but
the website is maplestave.com, and then I also have all my art. I do a lot of graphic novels and sequential art and gig posters and stuff like that, and that's all at plasticflame.com.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous stuff.
So let's hear those 2 those notes.
Okay, 1, if you've listened to this or watched this entire thing and you haven't seen Kicking and Screaming, don't watch the trailer for Kicking and Screaming, because it's one of those cool trailers where it's pretty much just the last scene of the movie over music, and so it kind of ruins and the other thing is that the song Heart of Darkness, sung by Max, in this heart of darkness, that is registered, and so Noah Baumbach gets royalty checks for like a couple cents every year. So yeah.
Oh, that's
like right now, he gets a royalty check right now.
Oh, sorry guys.
I think it has to be over 30 seconds, I think.
Oh, okay.
It's the heart of darkness.
Time now.
Chris. Oh yeah.
So, any other final thoughts for the movie, Chris, that we didn't get to during the course of the show?
No, I just I don't know. I really love this movie a whole lot, and this is the opportunity to talk about it and to they have it on Pluto on demand with commercials, and so I've had it on. I don't know how many times in the last couple of weeks. Like while I'm working, it'll just be playing, kicking and screaming over and over again.
And it's one of those scene by scene movies that like you can kind of just turn on and like you don't really need to watch to the end, even if you. I mean, you should if you haven't, but like you can keep it going.
But yeah, it's like I don't know. It's just one of the movies that I was like this and Back to the Future and the entirety of the television show Wings that I can just like watch. I can just have on all the time, and I just don't get tired of it. So.
Speaking of sideways, Thomas A. in Church. Thomas A. in Church coming up next week.
But Kristina, do you have final thoughts?
As like one of Noah Baumbach's like first films, I say this is actually a pretty good film. It aged really well. If you are a Gen Xer, this is definitely like a film that you can definitely relate to. And it's probably very, very underrated considering, a lot of films very similar to that were coming out in the early to mid 90s. But I seriously highly recommend this film. And, Noah Baumbach probably looks back and think, oh, I could have done better. But nah, boo, you did it.
You made a movie. And then a second movie, like right after the first movie.
Yes.
Conan, you got some final thoughts?
I do, as you might imagine. Look, this is a very cleverly scripted tableau of young people doing a college and then trying to find what's next. I'm an autodidact, so some of these films can kind of seem more like science fiction or eduganda in some cases.
Well,
but
you're
not
an
this one.
autodidact like Greta Gerwig's
Frances,
character
I know,
in
she said
Mistress Americana.
Look, that's hard relatable for me. I think it captures the nervy unease of that certain age that's like full of uncertainty very well of what's next. And I love how just honestly properly funny it is. It acknowledges that resting pomposity that plagues young people, especially dudes of a certain age. And it's more or less a feature-length existential crisis for the entire cast. You don't see that a lot on film. I think that I would call this like a younger roommate to Hal Hartley's work. Certainly not a ripoff, but it's a great film about camaraderie, connection, disaffected angst, and low-grade profundity.
The one guy that it's not a crisis for, like an existential crisis, is the guy that's just accepted that life is an existential crisis.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's fine. Yeah.
The one guy that's like, lean into it, bro.
I think there's some really incredible moments. Grover spontaneously going for the plane ticket, the imperfect sort of, as I mentioned before, sunrise style past vignettes of Jane and Grover making their initial connections, the endless quotable silliness of Max in general, Eric Stoltz's Chet, the guy that just keeps hanging out after college is like a cautionary tale. But also
gets a job at the local watering hole and talks to some guy that looks like he just got done from a shift at the plant. He's talking to him about Plato and Aristotle.
Yeah, I mean, he does seem to really genuinely enjoy his life, though. So that is something.
He has a kid. Well, he has a wife and the kid.
So as I mentioned before, many times before, as a Parker Posey fan and near completist, I'm surprised I didn't see this way back when, but I think this slots nicely with many similar movies of the era. Deeply 90s movie, but I mean, as a compliment, I quite enjoyed it.
All right, Andy, final thoughts?
This is the movie that The Room would have been if The Room was competently made. I you can see it right from down to like hi doggy moment is actually in this movie when they say hi to that kid.
Nope, we're not. Yeah,
no,
we're pulling the plug on this one. This is the worst analogy you've ever made. Congratulations, you've outdone yourself.
But I will say that this was.
You want to take two on this, or we got to keep digging?
The only thing that this movie and The Room have in common is it's somebody's first movie.
Somebody cheats on somebody else. There's a lot of.
I hate her.
Literally, the only thing this movie has in common with The Room.
My sentiments exactly. What?
The only thing this has in common with The Room is someone that didn't have real life experience making a movie, made a movie for the first time.
Let him have his incoherent final thoughts.
Although I do like imagining this movie, but you replace Chet with Tommy Wiseau.
Oh! Now that I like.
I was thinking Skippy with Tommy Wiseau, and
that's too. Skippy's already a weird character, so it would be fun. Like the crazy thing.
All right, replace Max with Tommy Wiseau.
Replace everybody with Tommy Wiseau except Parker Posey and Olivia Diabo.
No. Replace everybody with Tommy Wiseau except Max.
Oh, holy crap! Wow. Okay, that's some Spike Jones stuff there,
but I will say I don't know if
you guys all talk the same.
Right. Sure. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if I actually saw this movie back in the 90s or not. It's just like a blur of many other movies that are very out of the same vein. But this one definitely is better than a lot of those films. So if I saw it and never revisited it until now, or if this is my first time watching, I'm not certain. But this was actually great to watch because it really does hold up. Like unlike some of those other 90s films. So and The Room definitely holds up better than The Room.
All right. Well, we're going to be going to the after party in a little bit. You know, this movie has absolutely nothing in common with The Room.